Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Ink and Chat with myself, Sabrina, as your host. Today, we are joined by Miss Chante Douglas, and she is a mother of an 8-year-old little boy, and she's extremely passionate about advocacy for autism, especially in the Black and Brown community. How are you today, Miss Douglas?
I'm good, Sabrina. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing well. I can't complain, and even if I do, no one's going to listen. So,
Well, I'm thankful that you are here. You're in sound mind and body to be able to join us
yes,
today. Yes,
yes.
indeed. So we'll get on into it. So just tell us a little bit more. If you have your book right there next to you, pop it up so the people can be able to see the cover of it, and
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about Echo Boy and ABC Girl.
Yes, I love these kids. First off, I can talk about this book forever. We could be on here for 5 hours and me just talking about this book. But it all stemmed from really my son. My son's name is Levi. He just turned 9 a couple
Oh,
weeks ago, and he has autism. I was influenced by him, but I was also influenced by superhero movies. And two big movies that came to mind was Enter the Spider Verse with Miles Morales and Black Panther, and just seeing how representation means so much to us as Black people, Brown people, and other people of color that we haven't seen in so long in all forms of media. And I definitely did not see a lot of kids, Black kids, with autism in children's books. So after we seen the movie, I kept brainstorming about I really need to write a book. I don't know how I'm going to go about it because this is my first time jumping into children's books, and that's a whole different specific genre of books because you're catering to kids who you need to grab their attention immediately when you're writing books. It's got to be colorful. It's got to be, something fun to read, educational, all of that you got to think about. And I was scared
yeah.
because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm about to do, but I just felt compelled to do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and also this is really just a dedication to my son. This is how I see him every single day. I want the world to know that, he's amazing. He has a place in this world. Actually, where Echo Boy, the name Echo Boy comes from is my son has a speech disorder called echolalia.
Okay.
And I wanted to take everything, every essence of my son and turn it into a superpower for him. And also to just encourage other kids who are like him that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a mistake. You're not weird. You're not a freak. You're not any of those things. You're really an amazing individual. And God don't make no mistakes when we're all born and how we're born. So we need to celebrate our differences. And that's what makes all of us, amazing in our own right is because we're not like anyone else. So that's really what the book really is celebrating. And as far as ABC Girl, she's completely made up for my imagination. I've actually had a couple of parents ask me, was this really a real little girl that I know? And I said, no, I just felt like this girl needs to be seen a lot more. This beautiful little girl with her little pigtails. And, we need more of our dark skinned little girls in books being represented, especially our little girls that have autism. They need to be represented as well. And she's feisty. She sticks up for Levi. That's her best friend. It's a lot of my personality in her. So when you do read the book, you're like, oh, she's real feisty and she doesn't back down. Yeah, that's literally how I am for my son. But I love her to death. And just the response so far of people who have read the book, um, just it's been so fulfilling for me because I was scared. I was literally scared when this book came out because I didn't know how anybody was going to receive it.
Yeah.
I didn't know people were going to get it, but I just love the way kids have been reacting to my kids. I love them to death. And I also put out another book which I thought was really important. It's a solo book just for Echo Boy. This one in particular is talking about feelings, helping kids talk about things that may be tough to talk about and giving them space to talk about it. And this came out last year and I wrote this during the pandemic because, our kids were hit the hardest with
Yeah.
virtual school, not being able to play with their friends, birthday parties weren't the same, hanging out with their friends weren't the same. And it was just mental health is so important also in the Black and brown community that needs to be talked about a lot more as well. But
Yeah.
it's important to lay the foundation early with our kids to let them know they have a safe space to talk about how they're feeling, when they're feeling sad. You feel safe to, and it's okay to not be okay. And that's what I talk about in this book.
Okay.
Um, yep,
And so now, as a mom of an autistic child, how do you process on a day-to-day basis? Because I know it's a lot of parents that go through a lot of emotions, and they don't really know what to do as a parent of an autistic child. Do
yeah,
you have some tips or some advice for them on just, the process and how to deal and how to just, what outlets can they use to just go through every day, because I know it's a challenge, you know.
right. I think the main thing is build your community, build your tribe early because you need that support. You know, everyone isn't fortunate to have
Yeah.
that family support or close friends. But if you can, social media actually is a blessing when it's not being used for evil. As I like to tell a lot of parents, if you can reach out and start talking to other parents who are going through the same journey, and that's what really helped me early on, because you feel alone, you feel like you're drowning, you feel like um how am I going to navigate life with my child, and so that they're thriving, but also I need to be okay as well, mental health wise, to be that support system for my child. So really just build your community, build your tribe. Um it, it, it's really the backbone and the foundation of where I'm at now. Like when I look back 7 years ago when my son was first diagnosed with autism, and you feel isolated, you feel like you know, people aren't going to invite you out anymore because they don't. It's like they just don't want to say the wrong things about handling how you're handling your child, so they just don't want to invite you out anywhere. So you don't get those invites anymore. But once you find those people that get it, like, oh,
Mhm.
you was up until 3 o'clock and you couldn't sleep either, you had insomnia, or I had to buy 50 bottles of ketchup because he won't eat anything without ketchup. Like the little things that just matter,
Right.
goes a long way. And only other parents who have kids on the spectrum, they just get it. And
Right.
it helps so much to know that can I just call you real quick and just like, I'm having a moment, I'm in the bathroom crying. And I've had those moments. I had one yesterday in the bathroom crying. Like it just gets overwhelming, not because it's my child's fault, it's never his fault. It's a lot that you just want to give your kid the world and you want to protect them. And with that comes a lot of emotions that you need to get out. So the most important thing is don't hold all those emotions in because you'll drown in it. Really
Yes.
just find that outlet.
And that goes back to what you were saying about your second book, when as African Americans, being able to get the help um, that we need, whether it's, coaching, mentoring, therapy, whatever the case may be, it's okay. It's
Right,
okay to get it out, because we tend to bottle up a lot of things and just hold it in, and then we explode. And we
right,
know how that explosion can turn out at times. It
right.
can be really detrimental. So it's so important. So I'm glad that you brought that aspect up, because that's something that we need to discuss even more. Um, and how are, the parents, um, in the autistic community receiving your book? Is it a great resource, or they feel like it's a great resource for them? Is it helping them, kind of process and understand some of the things that their children are going through, because now you're sharing a little bit of your son's journey?
It's very humbling. That's the way I can sum it up. I've had parents, I've even had parents with neurotypical kids who aren't on the spectrum, that they've learned so much. And that was really the point. I wanted to write it to support the Black community who have children with with autism, but also to educate parents who may not even have any type of exposure to anyone with autism, but in particular with the parents who have bought the book. um I'm such a crybaby when it comes to when people message me and they tell me, like, this book is amazing. My kid, really connects with Echo Boy, or my kid really connects with, ABC Girl. And that's all I really wanted. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, how many people buy the book. Am I the message that I'm writing, are people receiving it the way I intended them to receive it? And that's all I really want. Are the kids inspired? I want to inspire the next generation of writers and get kids, especially our Black kids, to get excited about reading.
Yes,
And that's really just the bottom line, and the driving force behind what I do.
that is awesome. And which age group is your book for?
Now, originally the intended target was around my son's age group. So I want to say from like age 5 to about age like 9, 10 years old. But I've had parents they bought the book for their toddlers, and they said their toddlers, they enjoyed it because it was so colorful. And then
Wow.
I've even had kids older than 10 that have read the book, and they enjoyed it, which I take that as a huge compliment, because I wrote it for a specific age group, but it
Right.
has translated to kids outside of that age bracket that really enjoyed it. So, but it's really for that early elementary school age.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when it comes to books, no matter what the age range that we think that it's for, you would be surprised at the age range, whether it's from infancy, enjoying the colorful pictures,
Right,
um, to even older kids, even adults, picking up the book, reading it, and finding something in there that they can relate to,
right,
that just
right,
really just like, oh wow, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this book because it wasn't in my age range, or it was like a simple read, but they find something in it that really connects them to the story, and it's
right,
like, wow, I really
right.
enjoyed that. So that's great. And most of the time we want our stories to, yes, we want it to be for a specific age range, but we want it to be an overall book that anybody can pick up and read.
Absolutely.
Yes. So now tell me a little bit more about your writing journey as you were writing your first book and your second book. Did you have your son to kind of give you some input as well as you were writing on your writing journey?
Yes, I'll take it all the way back to high school. My and every time I do any type of podcast interview, I always have to shout out my English teacher from my freshman year in high school, because she was the catalyst that kind of gave me the confidence that I had the ability to be a writer. And Mrs. Stam, I love you to death. I'm gonna always love you. Thank you for, it's always that one teacher
Yes.
that will always stay with you no matter how old you get. I'll be 40 next month, and I still reach back and think about how I was when I was 14, 15 years old, writing, using vocabulary words and writing, doing creative writing. And her feedback from that was just, that stuck with me for the rest of my life. And now I'm a published author. um I started writing poetry for a long time, but I definitely give all credit to my son for really influencing me to make the jump into writing children's books. And he's funny because once the book comes to print, and I'll let him, look at the book and read it. And he's like, yeah, this is cool, mom. And then when the second book came out, he was just kind of like, all right, mom. Yeah, that's great. And then he was just over. So he keeps me very humble. Like,
Yeah.
kids will tell the truth. I'm like, all right, well, I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. Like, yeah, it's great, mom. All right, let me play video games.
Oh yeah. Kids are brutally honest.
Right.
They really are. They really are. And so for you, I think you touched on it a little bit. I want you to expound on it a little bit more. Why is diversity in children's books so important for you?
Oh, it's so important because kids need to see themselves in a positive light. And not just, in books, but, in movies and TV shows. We are seeing that movement growing. And I'm so proud to be in this era where it is now the norm to see us being represented more in all different facets of the Black community. We're not just pigeonholed into one particular area of what makes us amazing as Black people. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just them conjuring up negative images of us. We need more positive images, and especially with our youth. Our youth is the future, and if we're manifesting greatness, we got to start with our kids because they're sponges. And if they see like, oh, I'm seeing superhero kids that look like me, and just, and not even just, just autistic kids, but just our kids in general. They need to see that, it's important. It's a foundation that the more that they see it, the more that they can manifest it, and then they turn into adults that can change the world. And that's really how important it is for our kids.
That is so very true. We need to continue on this path. And as I was telling someone before, growing up, you know, I don't know about yourself. I know myself. I didn't have, a lot of African American. I don't even remember reading at all a book that had any African American characters that I could even resemble or relate to at all. I just knew that my
Hmm.
mom and got books for us so that she made sure that we could read, but
Right.
nothing in the story that I particularly could identify with. So now to be able to see so many African American authors writing children's books and just writing
Hmm.
books, period, that I can be able to share with my own children and my grandson, that they can look at and just be like, oh, wow, I can identify,
Right.
because
Right.
then you're looking at a reflection that looks similar to you in your skin tone. So, yes, very important, very important. Now, what book in any genre that has inspired you and why?
Oh, and it was funny because I was just posting about this earlier. I wanted to give flowers to LeVar Burton, who was the host of Reading Rainbow. And if
Right.
you're an 80s baby and you don't know this show, I'm going to give you the side eye, because that was the foundation for all of us
Yes.
about reading. And one book in particular was Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. And I don't, if anyone who's going to be watching this, if you're not familiar with this children's book, it's such a beautiful African tale that I remember um Mr. Burton reading it on Reading Rainbow. And I remember every time, we were at school and we would go to the library, I would always take that book out and read it. And also when I was younger, I was really into art as well. So just the illustrations were beautiful. The story was beautiful. That was literally in my, if I had a top five list of children's books that I thought were very pivotal in my childhood. And it's funny because when I posted a picture of that book, the response I got from people like, "Oh my God, I remember that book when I was little." And I said, "See, this is what I want my books to do 20 years down the road. Like, oh, I
Right.
remember that book. I bought that book for, my daughter, or I remember reading that when I was little." So it's so important to have those staples in your life that, when you're a kid, you don't think like, oh, 20 something years later, that's going to be a book that I hold as a standard. That when I went
Right.
into writing, I said, listen, if I can get those prestigious awards that I seen, like the seal on the cover and all that, like that book is everything. So
Yeah.
that, I want to say, any writing, if I want to take it out of children's books, Dr. Maya Angelou was such a heavy influence in my life, starting from junior high all the way through high school. Um, when I read I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings,
Hmm.
just her journey as a woman, but also as a Black woman, and what she went through in her childhood, the woman that she became, the
Yes.
legacy that she left behind after she passed. May she rest in peace. Just a strong and eloquent woman. Like when she talked, you just got sucked in the moment when she was talking. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't want to blink, you didn't want to do nothing else but just listen to what she had to say. And that really influenced me in how I wrote poetry. I want people to feel what I was feeling when I was writing, and that's how she is as a writer. So
Yeah.
I would have to say those two really were heavy influences in my life as far as literacy is concerned.
And I love the fact that you went back to reading Rainbow, and I think that was, a staple in a lot of our households growing up. But I will say that I've never actually read the book, because growing up in a small town, and when we went to our library, that book wasn't on the shelf.
Oh
So,
wow, okay.
but now that you said that, I most definitely need to make sure that I pick up a copy of that book. Because I do remember him reading it, but I never actually
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to actually check out the book from the library because, again, grew up in a small, mostly white community. So
Okay.
when I went to the library, it wasn't there. So that is most definitely, most definitely has been a staple to a lot of us,
Right.
growing up, and now just being able to even look at some of those past episodes is
Right.
really amazing to see,
Right.
you
Right.
know, how far he came from then until now, and he's still
Absolutely.
doing his thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. He's
Okay.
definitely a legend.
Yes. And now, besides your own book, what other children's book that really stands out for you that maybe that you've read to your son? Is it the LeVar Burton book, or do you have another book that you've read to him that he really enjoys?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, Mafaro's Beautiful Daughters is one. Man, there's so many because I know fellow children's book authors that are African American, and they wrote some amazing books.
Mhm.
Um, that I can't think of the titles right off the top of my head right now, but I will say one in particular. I have to shout him out because he's actually a young man who is a children's book author, and he's about 8 years old or 8 or 9 years old, and his book is called "I Can Read, So I Can Lead." Very inspirational. I've read it to my son a couple times. Such a great book. There is another book. Um, from my friend Levon McMillan, who actually she just came out with another book for her son, educating people about feeding tubes. I
Okay.
can't wait to read that, and I think it's called Jordan's Journey.
Okay.
Don't kill me, Levon, when you watch this if I screwed up the title, but I got to plug her. Um, so yeah, it's so many books. His bookshelf is ridiculous. So if there's anybody that's black, I'm supporting y'all, and I'll buy the book immediately. Just so that my son has, a wide collection of children's book authors that represent us, and we need to support each other.
Yes.
It's really difficult to like you said before, when we were growing up, it wasn't a lot of books that represented all of us within our culture, and now this big movement is it's amazing. It really is amazing to see so many different authors out there representing so many different areas of the culture.
Yes. And I would say that we're in a world now where it's a lot of stuff that we see. We as women are dominating. We are doing so many awesome things. So I'm glad that you shouted out the young man because we really need to see more black men, black boys involved in some of the same stuff. Like, we're out here and we're venturing out on in so many
Right,
different avenues. And so anytime that I see a black man who's doing something, it's so important that we push them out here because they get such a bad rep out here. So it's thank you for shouting the young man out. And I would love to, if you get a chance, pass him on over here to me. I would love to just be able to just interview him because I want to be able to see more young men faces out here as well, just as
right,
much because I've interviewed a lot of female authors, not so many. I might have interviewed just one male author so far. And I'm
okay,
like, where are my male authors at? So
right,
it's
right,
important that we continue, like you said, supporting one another and just pushing forward in our stories and making sure that, as we go on, regardless of if we sell millions of copies or if we sell 10 copies, we're still leaving behind that legacy for our children to pass on to their children, to the next generation of children, that they
right,
have stories now on their shelves that they can relate to, that have characters that look like them.
right,
So
absolutely.
that's so important. Tell me a little bit more about your journey, on your self-publishing journey, and how did that change, your mindset or your thoughts about, the way you write or the way that you are getting your message out there to the people.
Yeah, actually I had no clue about self-publishing for a long time. I was in the mindset of I don't even know how to get a book together, how to format it, and that just sounds expensive, and I don't have the budget for that. So, what was really amazing, someone had mentioned about doing self-publishing through Amazon, and I said, "Oh, so all I got to do is just upload some files and format the book, and they can ship out the book. So once I kind of figured out that avenue, I started writing a couple of poetry books just to kind of test the waters a little bit. And then I slowly started progressing to writing other things. And then I said, listen, I want to jump into the children's book genre. So um, it's definitely still a process. And I always try to tell people who ask me, like, well, how is that whole process? I'm like, it's not built for the week. You really have to be patient
Yes,
with
indeed.
with everything, formatting, editing, going through your rough drafts, and then with children's books, the illustration part, making
Yeah.
sure like the pictures in the book is it representing the key moments of the story that really you want to stand out. So, and before I forget, the young man's name is Asil.
Okay.
So he wrote the book I Can Read So I Can Leave. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
And I'll definitely give you that information for him. But yeah, it's definitely not, especially with Amazon, because how they require certain formats and everything else. It's like you they will definitely tell you like, okay, you need to fix this, okay, you need to fix that. So it takes a lot of patience, but
Yes.
it's worth it in the end because
Yeah.
you feel like you accomplished something on your own, and no one can take that from you.
Yes. And people have to understand that, this self-publishing process, like you said, is not for the faint of heart, but it's so many communities out here that you can gain so much from it. You get on Facebook, it's so many groups on there. You learn so much stuff. If you Google certain things, you can learn things, and just understand that, what I'm saying, there's no rush, no need to rush through the process. Take your time,
Right,
make sure that what you want to put out there to the world is what that message, and make sure that it's clear. But even though we call it self-publishing, it still takes a community to pull it together. So if you have to
right,
reach out to this person, the editor or illustrator, or someone to help you design your book, by all means do that. But just know that there's a community out there to help you along the way. Because yes, whew, I'm on my third one, getting ready to start my fourth one, and that first round I was like, oh my god.
right,
But
right,
like you said, I really appreciated going through the process and
right,
understanding what I'm capable of. Just
right.
I'm capable of making this happen for myself, and I did so. And I really respect the work that self-published authors are out here doing, because it's phenomenal to see so much beautiful so many beautiful creations that's
Right.
happening, that's being put out here into the world. So again, so now let's tell the people where they can find your books, how to get in connection, how to connect with you on social media, all that good stuff.
Yes, so you can follow me on Facebook. I do have a business page, and it's the Adventures of Echo Boy and ABC Girls. So there's a link there for the books that makes it a little bit easier to find the books on Amazon. You can follow me on Instagram, Echo Boy and ABC Girl. You can also find me on Twitter, Levi's Mom 82. And yeah, I'm always posting and on all of those social media platforms. In my bio, the link for the books are in there, just to make it easier to find the books. And I also do have a coloring book specifically just for ABC Girl. You can read the entire thing. And unfortunately, I don't have a copy with me because they always seem to sell out every time. So I
That's a
never
good
have a
thing.
copy on me.
That's a good thing.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the kids love the coloring, but you can read the entire thing, but you can color it any way you want to. And she takes you on a journey through A through Z about autism, things that she loves, empowering moments for kids to read about, her hopes, her dreams. It's just, yeah, it's all about just planting the seeds of positivity in our kids because they need that more than anything right now.
Well, that is awesome. That is so awesome. And I want to say again, thank you so much, Ms. Douglas, for joining me. It has been great chatting with you.
Same here.
Everybody, make sure that you go over and connect with her on her social media. Pick up a copy of both of her books. Again, I look forward to seeing what else you have to offer to the world in your
Thank you.
writing journey. Again, so guys, until next time, thank you again so much for joining me for another episode of Ink and Chat. Until next time, let's continue to ink the world. Bye.
Bye.